Hi there once again, I am Mishka and I'm talking to you about the series I Am and who I am, who you are. We're trying to find out what's happening inside of us. I do want to encourage you, this is the third part of our series, and if you haven't watched the first two videos, it might be better to just catch up a little bit. Go to mishka.com and also see those, because we're talking about fundamental situations and issues in terms of who I am and who you are. Today, I'd like to focus a little bit more on specific examples. You know, we spend time about talking about the I am factor, who it was. Remember now, that's inside of me, that I've been born with, that actually we are there's continually something inside of us telling us this is not the right place, this is not where you're supposed to be. Get into that next spot. It is almost like calling us the I am factor inside of every one of us. But now it is important for me, because you know, I can almost hear people saying to me, how am I going to get out of this? I'm in a situation now and I can hear the question coming up, but I have not decided to be in this situation. It is something that's been decided for me, or I've made a wrong decision. Remember previously I said, because we don't know who we are, when we understand who we are, we make other decisions. If I know, for instance, let's make this something very simple. If I know that I'm wearing a certain size clothing or a certain size shoe, it's very easy for me to go and pick some shoes, isn't that right? Because I will go up to the salesperson and I would first of all see something I like, but then the salesperson must have it available in my size. So if they don't have, I for instance wear a 3 or a 4, and if they don't have a size 3 or 4, I can't just decide, oh man, I love this shoe, I think I'll just take a 6, you know what, let's just see how it works out. It's not really gonna work. So that's very similar to when we start to understand our identity, who we are. What is that I am inside of me? We make different decisions. We make different decisions in terms of our careers. We make different decisions in terms of who we get married to. Make different decisions of who our friends will be. And as we grow closer and closer and closer to this factor of who we are, we actually start to lose, if I can put it that way, people. Some people don't feel comfortable anymore. You'll find out the moment that you start to change and say, but I don't want to be there anymore. I actually want to go and I want to become that person who I'm supposed to be. A lot of people might even leave you in that process. They might think there's something weird going on with you. And that's, sort of a good thing, because you don't always want that in your life. And I don't want that in my life. It doesn't mean that there's something wrong with them. It doesn't mean that at all. You know, very often we have the wrong perception even of something like rejection. But you know, sometimes if you plant a certain little seed or a certain plant into a soil that is not right for them, or into an area where they're not supposed to be, they don't grow. It's simply because it's just not in the right place. So, you know, if we look at that, we realize that rejection is not always a bad thing. Very often people feel very rejected. We feel rejected in relationships, you know. I was with this person and he or she left me, and I feel up until today, why did that happen? And we carry all these things, but I'd really like to say to you, maybe it's just a factor of realizing that perhaps it was the wrong plant in the wrong soil, or the wrong seed in the wrong soil, or whatever. And the easiest and the best way to sort of get to the next level is to get over it, and to understand that not everything is meant to be in the same place all the time. Even a mother and a baby, there comes a time where the baby and the mother rejects each other. Otherwise, the baby will never actually be born. So here the little baby is inside of the mother, and that's exactly where the baby is supposed to be for a certain period of time. And that's where he or she is nurtured in the mother's womb. But when they grow too big, the mother would say, I don't want this baby inside of me anymore. She's not rejecting her baby. She's literally knowing this is now a time. That's it, man. You're growing too big. I don't want you inside of me. The baby, once again, wants a lot more. He wants space. There where it was so comfortable up until that period of time, all of a sudden it's not comfortable anymore because the baby is growing. And that's natural. And you know how it happens? There's rejection. The mother's body literally rejects the baby, and the baby rejects the mother, and the two of them says, oh man, I want to get out of here, and she says, get out of there. And there's nothing wrong with it. It is a normal process in life. So often that's where we are as well. We want to hold on to something. Meanwhile, that might be the exact thing that is not there anymore. It shouldn't be there anymore. And be sensitive to it, because the moment that you're going to start to go back and finding out who is that, what is inside of you, what are you reaching for? Sometimes you may have to just leave people behind. Sometimes we've got families that tells us, you'll never amount to anything. Have you heard those words? No, man. What? They know us like we were when we were children, or they've got an expectancy that they think, and their expectancy might be here. But I want to say to you, the I am factor inside of you is possibly here. And unless we open up, unless we are in an environment, and there it's important for me today to even speak to parents. Don't have an expectancy of your children from here. Let them fly. Let them find out who they are and let them go there. Don't hold back. Don't hold them back. Be a protection. Give them comfort. But oftentimes, parents are fearful, and we cannot do things out of fear, because that little I am that's inside of your baby is trying to come out. They're trying to fly. Let them fly. Let them go. Let them go into that place with your protection around them. You see, so that is very important when we come to this, because the moment we're coming out of that zone, remember the last time I spoke about being out of your comfort zone. It's like being in a gym and your muscles have been lying for long and they just actually don't really know anymore what they've been created for, because we don't give them a chance. Meanwhile, they know exactly what they've been created for. They've been created to carry you. They've been created to get you healthy. But because we abuse it and we don't understand the function of a muscle, we actually don't stick to it. Now, when we start to do it, when we come inside of us, outside of a comfort zone, many things will shake around you. Things will change. Things are going to happen. And very often it's going to look like it's falling apart. And that is the hardest part of coming into your I am, is when things fall apart. Because all of us find comfort into keeping some things the same, We don't want people to reject us. We don't want people not to like us anymore. We don't want them because they've got this expectation of us, you see. And now it doesn't matter how unhappy I am. So I will always just try and keep them happy. But all the time, there's that I am factor that we've been born with that will call out. That will call out and say, you need to answer me. And that is what I mentioned previously, can even cause depression. People can become extremely depressed because they're living a life where they're not supposed to be. Now, how do we get out of this? How do we make better decisions? Sometimes when you're young and when you're perhaps listening to this and when you've been raised in a home that has taught you that there is an I am inside of you that needs to come out, how wonderful that is, because from a very young age you will just go exactly where you have to be. It didn't happen with me, and I give all honor, because that was definitely not my parents' fault. It was just something that happened. That is just the way it's been done. So I still give them all honor for being who they were to me. However, there was a time in my life where I had to make decisions, and I couldn't let anybody else hold that back any longer, because then I had to come into that space where I have to offer something back. When we reach that point, we understand that some people, even if they reject you for a little while, may even come back, because what you will offer them later is far more than what you were before you go into that space of just being who you are. Now, I talk about falling apart. You know, sometimes I speak to people, I get entrepreneurs talking to me and they say, you don't understand, Mishka, things are falling apart. And then I say to myself, I even want to say to them, you're actually in a very good place, because a true entrepreneur and a person who knows who they are, when things fall apart around you, you will actually start to feel comfortable, because you might just fall into place of where you should be. Now, when those little things are falling apart and things are going wrong around us, when we know who we are, it is very, very easy to make a good decision. It's very, very easy then to situate yourself and say, okay, that thing might be falling apart, but who am I? Remember I said previously in a previous one of these series that the I am factor inside of us is always the same. It does not change. It grows and develops, but it does not change, because that which I've been born with, the purpose inside of me, is I am. That purpose was the same at the age of 5, the age of 10, the age of 50, the age of 30. The I am is the same. It's the same. The purpose stays the same. And if we know that and we understand that it's not linked to my circumstances or whatever happens around me, it is so much easier to look at the circumstance and think, doesn't matter that you're falling apart. It doesn't matter that things are going wrong for a little while, because I'm still going to be the same is going to happen inside of me. That part of me that needs to grow and develop is going to stay exactly the same. I want to give you an example of where I was really, really challenged with my circumstances. And it is important today to understand that a lot of stuff that happens to us is not inside of our control. So, hear my heart. If you are in a place where you are not happy and things are going wrong, it does not mean that you've made a bad decision. Sometimes it definitely is. We made the bad decision. Remember? The shoes, if I make a decision to buy the shoes that are 2 sizes too big or a size too small, that's a decision I made. Now, the shoes are going to hurt me, they're going to hurt me. But we are being put in situations oftentimes where we don't want to be, and where we completely shattered and we don't know what is the next step. If we then act based on the I am, that we now start to understand who we are, we will get ourselves back on track. I'm going to give you an example of this that I always like to use, because for me this was really a time of my life where there was like absolutely nothing left. But it was such a wonderful time to see how that factor inside of me continued carrying on. Years ago, I had a car which I decided to sell because I was busy with a program with entrepreneurs, and I was seen in the newspapers and people called me. There was a Swiss company that called me and said that they're busy with a program in South Africa, and because I'm doing development with entrepreneurs, or I was at that point more extensively, they called me and they said, do you want to be part of this program? And I said, well, that's fantastic. It sounds very good. Thank you very much for thinking of me. Not knowing that in a very short period after that, things in my life would change drastically outside of my control. And during this whole process, I decided to do the right thing, you see, because I was working towards this part of me, this I am now, that I really knew this is who I'm going to be. And everything worked against it. And as I was in this program, I sold my car. I had a Mercedes. I sold it, and I decided to do the right thing and take money, the balance of it, and buy a Golf cash. And as I bought this car, I thought, that's it, Mishka, you're actually getting yourself into a better position, because it is really just a good financial decision for that point for the business, for cash flow. But at the same token, because I bought it cash, there wasn't a bank to make sure that the insurance went through. And the very same night that I bought the car during the day, the insurance wasn't taken out. And as we went out, the car lost control. I think there may have even been a mechanical error on it, I'm not so sure. But to make a long story short, we were in an accident, and 55 meters down, it was really serious accident. I was supposed to be dead, I suppose, or I don't know, anybody in a situation like that. They told me in hospital when I woke up, you were supposed to be dead tonight, but I wasn't. I had a couple of scratches. And I am just so grateful to say that I came out of that. However, now that cash that I took and put into this car was gone. So I walked out of hospital, not knowing many people around. And I still remember I had to get a lift back home because I had 2 children to go back to. And I was like shattered, and I thought, what's going to happen now? Here I am, I don't have this car anymore. I'm part of this program. So I've got this business, but a lot of my business was actually dependent on this program. And as I went back and I realized, no car, how do you get somewhere without a car? And it's like that night just changed my life, because it was a circumstance outside of my control. I still had to make sure the children get to school. I still had to make sure everything goes well with them. Once again, to make a long story short, I had to just realize that I am inside of me was calling, and it was a louder voice than my circumstances, because at that moment I had a choice to make. I could just go and fall apart with my circumstances, or I can take the situation and do what I can at this very moment. So what did I do? The word came from the Swiss people that I was a finalist in the program to be considered. And I thought, okie dokie, how am I going to do this? Because I was actually living far away from public transport, and I had no family around. And I made a decision, and I said, okay, I'm going to do this. And at that point, it really, really went bad in my life, because now the finances dried up. It was difficult. There wasn't any money in the house. It was really difficult. It was really a moment that there was nothing left. I still remember it so well. I had just enough money in my hand for a one-way train ticket into Cape Town to go and meet with these people. And you know, when you meet with them, you've got to look good. And I've got this presentation to do in front of them. And I mean, the Swiss people aren't just anybody. They are, precise. So I had a choice to make. Am I just going to just leave it? Or how am I going to get there? Because the only way I was going to get there was to walk quite far in the morning on my high heels to the train station. And then get a one-way ticket, and then I was stuck. So I asked a friend, I said, please call me. I said, please, can you help me? I need to get back tomorrow. That's all I'm asking for. I just want to get back from town, back to my house again. She said, you just go. You go. We are behind you. You get onto that train and you get there. We'll make a plan that you get back home. So as I walked out of my house that morning, fully dressed, you see, that's the I am that called for that. Fully dressed. I walked out. I thought, okay, I'm going to have to walk far. My neighbor turned out and he says, oh, you need a lift perhaps? I said, yes, I'm going to the train station. He said, well, I'm going to give you a lift today. I got a lift. Got onto the train, took me right into Cape Town, and the offices that I had to go to meet the people were very close to the train station. So what I did was presented my whole presentation. There were 5 of us that were finalists. And I had to go back. Oh, it was a wonderful feeling. That awesome feeling when another person that was just a wonderful friend made sure that there was enough money for me to get back home. Long story short, I won that. I won that competition. I don't know if you want to call it a competition, because it really wasn't. It was more of an initiative. But at the end of the day, they bought me a car that was double the amount of the car that I lost that night in the accident. So that was paid off. No money. I didn't owe anybody money. And they set me up completely. They paid me enough operational cash, and they paid me enough. They set me up with new stuff for my office. And you know what? I just got new hope, and I just went on again. And I'm telling you this today because I want to encourage you to listen to that voice of that I am inside of you that you've been born with, that purpose. You see, I had to go through that. Because if I didn't, I would have never known what is inside of me. Today, when I'm managing a company, a big company, where I've got so many employees looking up to me, so many of their families wanting me to make the right decision, I am so grateful I came to that place because some of my strength came out. Yes, I didn't have anybody around me. There was somebody, people came to me, and I knew that I would have everything that I need for where I've got to go to on this journey. So yes, you may be in a position today where you feel that, I don't know how to get there. Don't worry about that. Keep on going. Put the one foot in front of the other, because I'm telling you one thing, as you keep on answering to that call of the I am inside of you, you're going to go to places that you've never seen, and you'll probably go far higher and further than anybody that got it a lot easier than what you did. Well, that's it. Enough for today. Until next week, I can't wait to spend more time with you again. It is Mishka saying goodbye.